dollars to spend to get to a school that is perhaps performing better than the one in their district, their child can get a better education by going to a different school. And the money taken away from the underperforming school will show the administration in that district that they have to clean up their act now or risk losing their jobs, basically. So it's basically survival of the fittest, and the fittest public schools will win out under a voucher system, and more importantly, our children and our nation will win out in the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Jim.
I think it is a mistake to put our faith in a voucher system for fixing our public education woes. You said in your opening statement that you didn't believe it was a cure-all. Yeah, that's all you seem to talk about in your question. Vouchers are not going to improve the public education system. Vouchers, by removing funding from the public education, are going to destroy it. Underperforming schools should not have their money taken away because they're underperforming. We need a way to ensure that we can make these schools perform better, not put them under. We need to have higher standards for teachers. We need to give encouragement for people to become teachers. We need incentives. The government should be funding teaching programs. It should be funding teaching scholarships. It should be assessing high-risk schools and sending the most qualified teachers to them. We cannot solve our problems by using vouchers. We need to improve the public education system currently in place. Public schools can work. All of you sitting here who attend this public university should be well aware of that. And many of you, I'm sure, went to public high school. Public schools can work if they are properly run and funded. No Child Left Behind was a bill that had many flaws and has not improved public education in America to nearly the level it should. It created an unfunded mandate and punished schools when they did not have adequate funding to achieve their goals. Quite simply, we must tackle this from the inside. We must reform the public education system. We need better teachers. We need to provide schools with tools for improvement, not threatening to cut off their funding if they don't improve. We need a way to truly measure the success of students and teachers. We need more accurate tests. We need tests that can evaluate teachers' teaching abilities. We need tests that can evaluate students, and then after we evaluate these students, we need to find ways to use our funding to help them, not to cut their funding so they will never get the education they deserve.
Okay.
1 minute.
Well, in a minute, let's see. You say that vouchers take out money from public schools, and I guess you're assuming that they're going to private schools. Well, the fact is that parents are given a choice. They can send their children to a better public school, or they can choose to send them to a private school. Whatever is their choice, as is their right as parents to send their children where they want to go. So therefore, and you also talk about how No Child Left Behind Act was underfunded, and it didn't do anything, and it was simply a Republican measure. Well, it was sponsored by the late Senator Kennedy, who also realized the need to improve our education system, as well as George W. Bush did. Now, this bipartisan bill, prompted by a Republican administration, did in fact improve our schools by providing them with funding. But the fact is, as we have seen for the past almost 10 years, that funding alone is not enough. We need to give a choice back to the people through vouchers. We have to take the next step. One act by Congress over 10 years ago is not going to save our education system. Neither is another act of Congress. Government does not have all the answers. Sometimes the answer is right here within the American people. Thank you.
Second question. You were about half of it. Second question is directed at Mr. Kaufman. Immigration policy in the United States has been controversial for many years. There have been policy proposals ranging from a blanket amnesty to erecting a fence on the Mexican border. What are your party's proposals to reform immigration policy?
The Democratic Party believes in a strong but compassionate stance in reforming immigration. Quite simply, we cannot continue a policy of haphazard border control increases and raids on families. We need a solution that will help address the reasons for illegal immigration and provide a path to citizenship for those who are already here and we can't simply kick out. Republicans will often say, let's just increase border patrol and erect a fence. We've increased the border patrol for the past 20 years now. It has not slowed the tide of illegal immigration. We need to address the issues that are happening in Mexico right now that lead to illegal immigration. We need to act stronger in concert with Mexico to help their economic development and stop the drug war currently raging across their country. We need to understand that we can't simply ask all illegal immigrants to leave. They're here. What we can do is crack down on employers who hire them and hold them accountable to a higher standard. We need a path to citizenship for those already here who have not caused problems. We need them to get to the back of the line like anyone attempting immigration and provide a path to citizenship that will allow them to become productive, tax-paying citizens in America.
I'd like to surmise the Democratic plan as empty words and contradictions. Let me just point to one example here of the contradiction. They talk about cracking down on employers who hire illegal aliens, yet they also talk about a compassionate system with which to make them legal. How can we expect to be compassionate if we're throwing them out of their jobs, their legally attained jobs, and expect to attain a compassionate system? Whereas the Republican plan is straightforward. America is for legal immigration, a nation of laws, not of haphazard decisions made in Washington. We have to give power back to the Border Patrol, which as he has said has been basically been increased over the last 20 years to a whopping 6,000 men to defend hundreds of miles of desert, which is basically an underfunded mandate. What the Republicans are advocating is strong enforcement of the laws that already exist within the nation to combat the illegals who are committing crimes and are over 20% of our federal prisoner population. So we have to deal with them domestically, and we also have to deal with the border by adding meaningful numbers of Border Patrol and National Guardsmen to our border security with Mexico. And the Democrats also talk about intervention in Mexico with Mexican problems. Well, how can Democrats, on one hand, advocate non-intervention in other areas of foreign policy, but say, oh, it's okay to intervene here? That doesn't make sense to me. Either you have to provide a coherent policy with immigration, which the Republicans do. Thank you.
Thank you. 1 minute.
Well, I would like to address your criticism of our approach of not being compassionate. Quite simply, we need to crack down on employers. You were saying that they're illegal immigrants, but their jobs are legally obtained. Well, that makes no sense from your own point of view. Also, regarding interventionism in Mexican policy, it's a far cry different than a war half a world away when Mexican citizens are crossing over our border daily. I would say that is a completely different matter. And for calling Republican policy on immigration consistent, increase the Border Patrol raids and deportations on random illegals while letting others stay. I would struggle to find the Republican policy consistent in any way. The Republican policy, at least, is just simply random ramping up of Border Patrol